All right. Hey, everybody. We are here. So this is Tanner and Jamie. Just checking in. Tanner was in town. Is it officially GitHub Universe? What is it that brings you in town?
Yeah, I was on a panel at GitHub Universe,
Okay.
and I'm just taking the opportunity to meet with a bunch of people as well.
Yeah.
You got to kill like 5 birds with one stone when you come into the Bay Area. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah. There's certainly a lot going on here. It's easy to get pulled into the
totally.
San Francisco vortex. But what was the most impressive thing you saw at GitHub Universe? Just curious if something jumped out at you.
The decor, like
Okay.
they go all out at GitHub Universe, like with the decor. So like there's a lot of like props and these big displays, which I guess is probably not uncommon at really large conferences, but for developers, I think we rarely see that. I think the only other place I saw something close to that was like Cloudflare Connect, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Or have you been to reInvent?
I have not been to reInvent,
Okay.
but I've heard it's
reInvent's
huge.
like it's like a zoo. You just go there and the scale of this. I don't even know where to begin to like engage with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I went one time. James and I went a couple years ago, and we were so overwhelmed. We were like, I don't think we're coming back next year because like I don't really know what to do with myself. Right? Like it
Agreed.
washes over you, and you're like, you
Yeah.
know,
And it's a developer conference, GitHub Universe, but
right,
it didn't feel like a developer conference to
right,
me.
yeah,
There's like I would sit down at a table and you find some people that are like, oh hey, do you know what React is? And they're like, yeah, but most of the people would be like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'd build open source software for web development.
right,
And I mean, this is GitHub we're talking
right.
about. And I was surprised that most people
You
were
would
just
think that
like,
would land,
they were just
but
like,
yeah,
oh,
interesting.
neat.
Yeah,
I'm like, where am I?
yeah. They're like, I was thinking of trying React at some point. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're like,
yeah,
okay, you're not my
right,
you're not my
yeah.
people. Where are my people?
Yeah, that's that. Even the way that we've been thinking about conferences lately is like, what's a room in which, like, if we were wearing a Convex hat, someone might come up to us and say, "Oh, hey,"
Right.
And so it's like the biggest conferences, almost like in a way that feels sort of like contradictory, like are often like the lowest hit rate on like, is
Yeah,
this where my people are, or whatever, versus like the right room with 100 people in it. Sometimes is like the most valuable
so much
place to
better.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool. So one of the things we were talking about before we came on the stream here is we were talking about demos, because I know there were a lot of demos at the conference, and how demos are very interesting because they kind of like essentially like demonstrate the happy path,
Yeah.
right? Like the thing that works the best.
I was just talking to Adam Rackus too on Discord, and he was like showing me some demos,
Mhm.
that he's run through. There was a big comparison article that came out just barely, um, about I built the same app in 10 different frameworks. It's
Right.
a really cool article. Actually, we should probably link to it after. But that inspired someone to talk about how SvelteKit is just the best framework on the planet.
Right.
And Adam showed me this demo, and when I went in, we looked at it, and man, when you look at this SvelteKit demo, it is cool. Like
Right.
it is so awesome.
Yeah.
You like everything looks so simple
Yeah.
and clean, and Adam is like, but that doesn't account for all of this other stuff.
Right.
And that's exactly what demos are. We were just chatting, and I was like, demos are a trap. I think he
Right.
just tweeted this. It's like, yeah, every demo is a trap. It is a carefully laid trap to get you to look in one place and not the other.
Yeah. It's like any abstraction is possible because it's kind of like removing some choices in a way,
Mhm.
right? And so demos are the perfect encapsulation of like hiding all the trade-offs, right?
I mean, even we do that. Like, why?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
why wouldn't you,
Every
right?
place does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first 10 minutes is, you want that to be just so alluring, and maybe a more honest way to put it is to really like convey the core value of what you're going to get out of this, right? But then I guess the tension there is to just make sure you feel some responsibility for owning the whole user journey, that
Yeah.
like things will eventually get real, and like
Pull back the curtain a little
yeah,
bit.
and the compromises need to be reasonable, right? Like they need
Mhm.
to be workable, as opposed to someone feeling like they were tricked or something.
I love demos like that, actually, where it's like, hey, here was the perfect use case. Here's all this great journey we just went on. Let's talk about the trade-offs. Like
Yeah.
maybe when should you not use this or do this, or when will it go wrong? I think I was talking to Jason, learning with Jason,
Mhm.
right?
Oh
I
yeah,
was talking to
love
Jason
Jason.
last night, and he's like, I watched a team demo something the other day with AI, and they did it live, and it fell on its face
Yeah,
like 4 times during the live demo,
right.
but they knew how to fix it, and they're like, hey, this is going to happen when you use our tool, and
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Here's how to work around it. Here's how to be productive with it. And he was like, massive respect
Right.
for that. That's
Yeah.
pulling back the curtain.
Yeah. It's almost like if you could nail it, the maybe the for a developer audience, the meta version of nailing it is you want the thing to fail about 10%, right?
Yeah,
Because it's clear it's not a video at that point, right? It's like,
right.
oh, they're really
Like,
doing
this isn't
this,
fake,
but
I
like,
promise.
yeah. But one of the things we found even early in Convex is like this temptation you have to be like, don't worry, this will never fail, or you're never going to need to know how to adjust it. Developers, understandably, that actually makes them incredibly nervous because they don't believe that's true. They're
Yeah,
like, I know there's a cliff somewhere. I would rather kind of know where it
it's
is
a trust
and
issue.
what to do about it when I get there, you
Yeah,
know? And the more we're like, oh, of course, you're an engineer. We should make sure you have your hands on the knobs so that like if something happens, but
yeah,
then you have this confidence that like, I know where the edges are. I know what to do about them, you know? So, but
that's
the
a good
demo is
point.
all about the beauty, like the perfect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's tempting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to me, this is a little related. I know it's been a hot topic, at least like earlier this week, but there's maybe some connection here between this kind of energy and some of the use workflow stuff, right? About like,
Oh yeah.
wow, how concise is it to just put that
Oh,
one?
absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you wrote up something about that, but like, are there some parallels there to you?
Oh, absolutely. And it's, I mean, for me, it's like all directives are
Hmm.
that way. I sent a funny message to David Kershid. And if you know David, he's a state machine guy, right?
Hmm.
And he cringes when he sees use state with a Boolean,
Hmm.
because then it just turns into a bunch of use state and Booleans. I'm like, dude, directives are like the use state Boolean of compiler magic,
Right.
right? You're basically, it's a Boolean to turn something on or off.
Hmm.
And like they demo so well.
Right.
Like what doesn't demo better than use state true or false, right?
Right.
Set it, you know. But directives, they demo really well. All of them do.
Yeah.
Because it's just this one thing you got to put in there. And yeah, it's just a string, but everyone can remember a word.
Right.
So you put this thing in there and then it just works and it's magical. But you know, when you start to pull the curtain back, or what's that curtain going to look like 5 years from now? I
Yeah.
just think that there's a lot of forward thinking that has been left out.
Yeah. I a thing it made me think about is um it made me think about Terraform, okay, versus Pulumi, right?
Okay.
So and you know, Terraform's still taking over the world, but Pulumi is an interesting exercise, I would say, in the discovery about. I mean, Convex. This is definitely like in Convex's wheelhouse too. Sort of like everything is code, because there's this journey you can go on, right, where you're like, oh, we have this domain specific configuration language. You ship that, everyone goes, yay, they high five each other, it's all good. And then somebody goes, well, we're starting to get kind of a lot of these. Maybe we should have a way to wrap up the common stuff, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, what's a kind of templating thing we can do so that we, and then after that, you go, well, we're going to want a way to check this stuff, to know it's right, and to run invariants against it, and to simulate it and put it in a simulated environment. And I think the people that start on this path, the thing you discover is you end up reinventing a programming language,
Language.
essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like a programming language is it's essentially the product of us figuring out how do you represent like these abstract systems in ways which are encapsulatable and generalizable and like eliminate reuse, like code redundancy and stuff like that.
Right.
So you end up pulling on that thread and you go back to like, oh, that's what functions are for, you know? So I thought a couple of
Right.
things in your article where you're calling out like, well, so there's a packaging system for these things, and these things need a way to compose together. And like pretty soon, it's like once you do this, you just realize you essentially have to make a whole programming language out of your pragma syntax.
Yeah.
So why didn't you just use functions to begin with, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, you're going to get there one way or another, right? Kind of a thing.
For me, a lot of it too goes back to no matter how you represent all that, there's a couple of things that always come to mind for me is obviously type safety.
Right.
And especially with this directive stuff is like provenance. Like I want to know, where is this stuff coming from?
Sure.
Right. And JSX shook the world when the React team was like, hey, there's this thing JSX, right? And people are like, whoa, magic. But even JSX has a reasonable approach to provenance where it's like, hey, there's a pragma behind the scenes here.
Sure.
And that pragma is implemented by this thing and there's a spec for it. And that spec like lives somewhere. You can go and look it up and there's rules.
Yeah.
And you know, there's talk of a new version of JSX even in the future, but at least it's versioned.
Right.
Right. No
Yeah.
one's going out there and just saying, well, we're just kind of adding whatever we want, because
Right.
then it's not going to be compatible. So I'm always looking at like, okay, where's the provenance? Where's the type
Right.
safety? how can I trace this thing through
Sure.
what's actually happening?
Yeah, you could even say that the like start of authority for JSX is the fact the file ends in
There
.jsx
you
or
go.
.tsx, right? Which is it's already a well-established convention that like, okay, this is a different environment,
Yeah.
right? But if you have a normal TS file with like this one magic string in it, there's all kinds of questions about like, are we in that runtime right now that knows what this is, right? And
Yeah.
like, and I think it reminds me a little of the old arguments about like what color is your function with async, kind
I
of,
love
right?
that
It's like
article.
if I'm deep in the call
Hmm.
stack right now, am I currently in a workflow thing, or is this just like normal
Yeah.
code, right? And we might say, well, that shouldn't matter, but like it's difficult to anticipate that in the fullness of time. Like, would it matter to know, right, what
Yeah.
environment you're operating
It's
in,
hard to
right?
know.
It's hard to know. So, cool. Well, I'm sure a lot of folks that are watching are curious to know like the latest on what's going on with TanStack Start and stuff like that. Like, where are you guys at? Like, what are you excited about? Like,
Yeah. TanStack Start is in release candidate. It's been a couple weeks now, and we did push the release candidate pretty quick.
mhm.
I think people were surprised, and we also introduced some new features with the release candidate, so there was a little bit of regression,
Uh-huh.
but that was all worked out pretty quickly, and things are humming along now. Um, you can spin up release candidate right now and use it. We have people actually shipping into production already.
Yeah.
They know the consequences of that. We've been shipping into production for over 18 months now.
Right.
But anyways, it's very stable now. Like the API is stable. It doesn't mean it's perfect.
Mhm.
There's things with the onboarding. There's things like with just little issues here and there. I'm working on some really fine tuning polish for the middleware system right now.
Mhm.
But other than that, things are really good, and we don't anticipate anything changing.
Mhm.
We don't anticipate it taking very long. It's not going to be months.
Right.
Hopefully, it's more like realistically, probably weeks. But obviously, in my wildest dreams, it's like, oh, it's only days away,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of in that mode now. We're in the last mile.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you decide like this is it? It's time to
we
call it.
have a fine set of issues
Yeah.
that we're tracking, that are kind of like, here's our must-haves, here's our nice-to-haves, and we don't anticipate any of these breaking the APIs.
Mhm.
But we don't want them to. We don't want normal people using it to run into these issues. So we're gonna fix those, and then we're good.
Yep.
The only thing that we're kind of going back and forth on right now is the implications of React server components.
Mhm.
And we did proof of concept out server components quite a bit a year ago
Yep.
to see, okay, what do we need to be aware of so we could do this incrementally?
Mhm.
We're actually getting into working on server components now.
Yep.
And things are still looking good. Like there won't be any massive changes.
Yep.
So now it's just kind of that battle of like, okay, we got to balance our excitement to go tackle this new React server component thing and just get 1.0 out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm sure you've answered this before, but like just maybe an updated version of like what are your ambitions here? Like what are your intentions?
With Start in
With
general,
Start in general, yeah.
it's funny. Originally, I didn't want to build a full stack framework. I
Mhm.
was fine with just the router. That's all I needed. That's all I'd ever needed over the last 10 years of building apps. And then I started building websites, and I started building tanstack.com. And it's funny because I used to use Next.js to do that. And then I
Right.
moved to Remix, and I was like, oh, Remix is so much better and so cool. And then I was using Remix, but then I was like, man, I really miss my router.
Mhm.
And when we released TanStack Router, so many people said the same thing. They're like, now that I've tasted the type safety and all this developer experience, I
Right.
can't use anything else.
Yeah. Kind of want that everywhere.
Please build a full stack
Yeah.
framework. And I was like, okay, now that I need it too, let's do it.
Right.
So, I mean, the ambition is, I want people to just be able to have that developer experience and type safety everywhere they go in the JavaScript ecosystem. So, yes, it means trying to be the de facto solution for React,
Right.
but also Solid
Yeah.
and any other frameworks that want to. Brandon Roberts from Analog,
Mhm.
he has sunk a ton of time into building proofs of concept for Tanstack Router and Angular.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
it's totally possible. You could do it for Angular, Vue, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a bit of a future there, but obviously, the distribution is mostly React.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you were talking about SvelteKit earlier. Like TanStack services a lot of frameworks, obviously. So, but how do you think about balancing effort, right, and attention between these
Yeah.
different frameworks. I'm sure, you know, everyone with their latest brand new framework would love to have, you know, TanStack support, you know, whether it's
Yeah.
TanStack query or router or full start or anything, you know. So how do you think about managing that investment on your side and your team side?
I think a lot of it is the ratio between our expertise with specific frameworks and the desire from that community where we don't have the expertise. So we have a lot of expertise in React,
Hmm.
and we have a lot of expertise in Solid because we're really close with the Solid team. So naturally, those are things that we can just kind of do. We don't have anybody who's like a Vue expert,
Right.
right? And and if the demand is there, someone will surface. They'll be like, "Hey, I can do this. I'm a Vue guy. I'm going to help build this adapter and champion that."
Right.
Similar to like with Brandon, where if somebody's going to write the Angular adapter, it's going to be Brandon, right?
Right.
And but the desire from the Angular community just doesn't seem to be as strong as it needs to be yet.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're just constantly listening to how much people want it. I saw my very first request today, maybe my second request today on Twitter for somebody asking for TanStack Router and Svelte.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow, like I've only ever heard this like one or two other times. So
Hmm.
yeah, but one or two or three people.
Right.
It's not enough to justify, hey, we're gonna go take the next couple months and
Yeah.
build this Svelte adapter.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I know like another project people are probably excited about that I thought was really cool and I saw it land was TanStack DB.
yeah,
Yeah, it seems like you all have been focusing a lot on that too recently.
yeah.
Like what sort of like what was the path that led you guys to that project?
So, and this probably hits really close to home with Convex. It's a very interesting topic because there's some like overlap and convergence in there a little bit. But with TanStack DB, so originally when I built TanStack Query, um, the dream was to have something. I mean, I didn't even know what it was called the sync engine 8 years ago or whatever, right?
Right.
But I remember using tools like Meteor
Hmm.
and just falling in love with that experience. And I was
Right.
like, oh wow! And then Meteor kind of didn't go anywhere.
Right.
And then GraphQL came out,
Hmm.
and GraphQL kind of promised this really great developer experience that you can kind of squint and see local first a little bit through GraphQL and some of the systems that have been built around it, like with Relay.
Hmm.
But then again, Relay hasn't really taken off with the general development community, and GraphQL is kind of falling flat, right? And so when I built Query, my dream was to have it be, strict schemas and be able to do things like joins, and it's like a real query system. That's why it's called Tanstack Query, right?
Sure.
I was imagining a query system built into it, but people just weren't ready for all of that.
Hmm.
Like the mass JavaScript community just was not. I was barely ready for it.
Hmm.
And I saw how GraphQL was received, and I was like, you know what? Let's just stop there and do a key value store with promises.
Hmm.
And that's really easy to think about and reason about. So people grabbed onto that.
Right.
Um, and about maybe a little less than 8 months ago ish, Kyle Matthews
Hmm.
came to me and he's like, hey, me and Sam Willis had this idea for this library
Hmm.
that has strict schema and it does local first. And I'm like, oh, like that was my dream,
Hmm.
And he's like, yeah. And the way we're imagining it is that it can be built on top of something like React Query.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, this is really cool. So we got together and took the initial like prototype work that they had done around this idea and started massaging it into kind of the TanStack tenets of
Right.
type safety and developer experience. And that's what you see today. If you go to TanStack DB, it's in beta. But really what it became was it's the front end only,
Yeah.
the client side only of a
Hmm.
sync engine.
Right.
It's kind of like build your own sync engine, and it's highly addicting to use.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice. Yeah, we're it's on my list to dive into more. The challenge that Convex always has with these things is that fundamentally Convex is strictly serializable.
Yeah.
Like and essentially, like sync engines almost always make concessions that have different consistency
Yeah.
semantics than a and so the
It's always trade offs.
yeah, and so that managing the clarity of that relationship to our developers between the difference between the functions that phone home, because in my experience, most apps do have some functions that phone home and require, like, things are just easier. They don't need 0 millisecond performance or whatever. Having that those things live side by side and having some clear understanding about the difference of the consistency relationship between like the local, even on our own designs, like because
Yeah.
we've had a couple of designs of sync engines. That was one of the things that we put the most thought into, is the comprehensibility of that relationship. Because
Yeah.
like one of the things that developers really like about Convex is they're like, oh, it's wild, everything just works all the time. But like one of those, like, the biggest reason it just
I know the
works
feeling.
is it makes the world feel single threaded, right?
Yeah,
And
I see that.
only strict serializability can really do that. It's like, yes, the world does appear single threaded to you, right? So sync engines introduce something different than that, that is extremely useful, right? But it's also important, in my experience, that developers build some kind of model for what's the relationship of this versus the rest of my code that runs on the
Yeah.
server.
And we're seeing that too, that there's a lot of education to be done,
Yeah,
which is again kind of goes back to like I didn't really know if the general ecosystem is ready
right.
for something like this, because
Yeah,
it's difficult to grab the developer who's just coming into web development and say, hey, sync engines, and thinking about all of this stuff. It's, I mean, a lot of times they see something like use effect,
right.
and they're like,
Yeah,
oh, surprisingly, I can understand this and do this.
right.
So
Yeah,
there's a lot of education to be done.
yeah. And
Um,
I think for us too, like one of the challenges in terms of like the way the energy has showed up is that I would say that my suggestion, and this suggestion I guess embodied in our product, right, is it like it's actually really good to just reason about your overall state transformation first. Um, and because of the sophistication of this stuff, I like to layer these things on after you've sort of modeled what's my core data
yeah,
model on the. But local first was so first, and so that what I was observing is there were a lot of people. The first thing would do would spin up some, like CRDT backed sync engine or something,
yeah,
and then just be completely confused 4 months in
yeah,
about what was happening and why, and how to evolve their schema, and why certain mutations were being lost because they weren't expressed in a way that was actually, able to be like automatically convergent and consistent.
right,
So it was like there's so much energy to be like, I just want to use this thing out of the box. And like I get it, 'cause I would just love to use it that way too if it had no trade-offs. But so the way that we've started approaching it is like we view this as like a when your project reaches a certain checkpoint and you've kind of developed some amount of mastery of like the core convex thing, that we want to have this fantastic system you can layer on top of that to
yeah,
make certain interactions even better. But that's a little bit different than how some of the energy was coming in, where it's like we only ever have to use these things in the future. And for folks that aren't like distributed systems experts, actually, it's a little complicated to just imagine like everything is solved by this model. So even though I think it's an extremely powerful model for, again, your application's
yeah.
core interactions and stuff. So um, yeah, to me that goes back a little to that like demo thing, right? Where it's like it is amazing, but like
Yeah,
yeah, these are the things you have to kind of think through and understand about what's happening here.
it's amazing how quickly that can happen too. Because I mean,
Yeah.
we DB is in beta, and it is impressive
Hmm.
the experience you can have with it. And I've already seen people who are like, "Oh, DB is the answer
Right.
to everything," and I'm like, well, "No, it's not.
Right.
Like, calm down.
Right.
Like, there's use cases for this, and you need to realize the trade offs,
Right.
right?"
Yep. Cool. One of the things I was going to say to Wayne, because I think Wayne is on the like, if anybody, by the way, has questions on any of the various platforms, X or YouTube or anywhere, like fire away questions for Tanner. You can have questions for me too, but mostly questions for Tanner, I think, are what we're looking for here. Um, so, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why we're talking to each other is that Convex is excited about TanStack Start and actually just TanStack stuff in general. So, and I've said this before, but like one of the reasons for us, maybe just to share this, is that we, you know, um, Convex, a lot of Convex users use Next.js, right? A lot of Convex users continue to use Next.js. And so, in particular, I would say when like a lot of the Next 14 kind of server side stuff came out, cache management, stuff like that, like we were finding ourselves in more and more situations with users where they were really confused about what was going on. Like, I think that Next is it's a lot of complexity about the way it's kind of taken on some of these like optimization problems it's taken, like performance optimization problems. And so there's like we've definitely had an interest in having something that felt I will put it this way, like kind of like simpler and maybe more thoughtfully designed is that might sound a little charged, but like realistically, because a lot of the user interactions we run into, like especially once server side rendering gets involved, that they see, like that dynamic data they're pulling from is convex for these customers, right? And so we end up more intimately involved, I would say, in kind of the like server side rendering relationship than we were anticipating. And in
Yeah.
retrospect, it makes sense. And so we're very, very interested in helping like support and encourage and get involved in things which feel like they will make like our like developers using Convex's life easier and more composable and all this kind of stuff and more intuitive. And so, and I think a lot of the designs that I saw, the directions you were going in like a year ago with TanStack, just felt like, oh, this is very exciting because we're going to get a lot of these kind of wins that we wanted out of everything Next is doing, but I think in a way that feels like it will be more intuitive to developers to kind of understand and work with and stuff like that. So that's our background on how we started working together and like why I've been very excited following along with everything that Tanner and the whole team is doing. So how many people do you have working now on TanStack stuff?
Well, first of all, those are kind words. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That means a lot to me and the team. Yeah, there's quite a few of us now. I think I can't even remember. I think there's up to 10 core contributors
Wow.
now across various projects. I think our total maintainer group internally is up in like 20 something.
Hmm.
And obviously we just have a lot of drive-by contributors as well. I think we're over 1,200 contributors total or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's incredible.
yeah, but the team is big and it is a fun team. There's a lot of people involved. I mean, it would take 2 minutes just to name everybody here because every single project has its champions and has its people that care very deeply about it. Sometimes even more than I do at this point.
Hmm.
So yeah, but it's a wonderful place to come and build.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Any like new stuff you guys want to share about like new things you guys are starting to work on?
I did mention React server component support.
Hmm.
And up till about a few days ago, that was just going to be pretty boring. Like it's just going to be like, oh, you can use React server components like you are used to with Next.js, and with something like remixes or React Router 7's implementation. But a couple of days ago, we actually discovered something new and exciting that we could do with React server components that I haven't seen
Hmm.
in any other implementation of them yet. And I don't want to spoil it too much yet because it'd probably be confusing to explain
Yeah.
just right here, right now.
Okay.
But that's definitely something to watch out
Yeah.
for. Hopefully, in the next month or two, we'll have something to show. And everybody that I've demoed it for, and I'll demo it for you after this if you want to get your opinion on
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Everybody that we've demoed it for, at first they're kind of like, wait, is it really that simple?
Hmm.
And then once it clicks, they're like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Right.
This is fantastic.
Very cool.
So
That
kind of
sounds
going back to
exciting.
like that, hopefully it's thoughtfully designed for simplicity,
Right.
to just break down cognitive barriers and just help people be productive.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. What are your thoughts on React 19? All the new stuff.
You know, I try to slow my roll a little
Okay.
bit with the excitement of new React releases.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was at React Conf. I saw everything that they announced there, and it was even before that they announced it. And it's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Everything around transitions, and the view transitions API, like it's very exciting.
Yeah.
From a library and framework developer's point of view, there's some stuff that we have to get ahead of, right? I mean, I had long phone calls with Ricky about, hey, we need to make sure that transition support in TanStack Router and Start is like really good. So we have some work to do there. And then on the other hand, it's like I don't know how quickly I want to rush into be like, oh yeah, TanStack is now embracing all these new APIs, and peddling them kind of at people. Like I like to watch things mature even just a little bit upstream.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, we'll support it
Hmm.
and we'll see what happens and make sure that
Yeah.
things go
It's a
well.
very measured answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and 19.2, the
Yeah.
the upgrade so far has gone really, really well.
Okay.
So generally speaking, 19.2 has been fantastic. We did find some little tiny edge cases here and there around suspense with
Mhm.
Start. But they're really, really small issues, and we've already been working with the React team to like make sure that we navigate those well. So
Cool.
yeah, it's great.
Good. So Wayne, you mentioned check out the pin tab for questions. I'm going to admit I don't really know where the pin tab is. I'm not also, I don't think I'm an admin on Resend. So if you want to just pop a question up for us, we'll just react to it. We'll just do a live.
Yeah.
So, quick answer. Would using Convex workflow and action rechart replace the uses of ingest? I mean, that's the aspirational goal. Ingest is a pretty mature product, so I don't know if out of the gate. Oh, look at that repping. I appreciate that. We just got random hats lying around here. Yes, the goal is to be able to do most of what ingest can do as a Convex developer using those components. But I know how mature ingest is, and so I'm not going to make a hot take on the spot that it will do everything ingest will do. I suspect ingest has features that those components don't have yet.
You mean it's not as simple as just
No, believe it or not, it takes work to build stuff. Yeah. So I like the direction we're going in, but like we're a relatively small team, and so there's a lot of work to do there. So thank you God for saving us from Next.js's magic. Well, that's mostly Tanner doing that, but it's nice to spread that credit around a little bit. So I and I do want to say that Next is a powerful system, and a lot of people use it successfully. I think that a lot of what I like to see is just karmically like try to put energy in the world. It feels like we're also driving toward things that are simpler too, because these things have really long lifespans, right? Like people use them for decades, and they end up with millions of lines of code, and so the implications of complexity do stack up. And I like to get ahead of all of that where we can.
Once upon a time, I built a static site generator framework a long time ago, before Lambda was the thing. It's called React Static.
Okay.
And people probably don't know this, but I could have raised money. I could have gone all in on that. And I actually decided to fold and give that to the community. And I basically deprecated my efforts to use Next.js. And man, I was so excited about Next.js when that was the case. I just thought they are just solving my problems, and they did for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just speaks to that. It's like Next.js isn't this framework that just came out a year or two ago. They've been doing this for a really, really long time. And that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool. Did we miss another one, Wayne? Let's see. I'm just looking on the side now here. What should I use instead of use state boolean? That's a you question.
Oh man, I mean, if you ask David Kershid, even just changing that use state boolean to a string, so it can represent multiple states instead of just one would be a good call. But tracking state and talking about state management has a lot of facets. I think at a really, really high level, some of the best advice I think I've given people has been your state should probably end up in a couple of different systems depending on what it's doing. And the first system is a good question to ask yourself is this state coming from the server? Is it derived from the server? You probably shouldn't be putting it in something like a use state or as a stand or Redux or anything like that. It should be coming from something that is designed to manage state coming from the server, a Convex or a React query or some type of caching system. The other good question would be, does this state belong in the URL? And a good test for that is if you reload the page, hard reload the page right now, does that state get blown away? And if that's a bad thing, then it probably belongs in the URL. And if you still need it to persist, but you don't want it in the URL, you need to ask yourself, does this need to persist in local storage, session storage? Do I need to put it into the database and do it in the cloud? These are all really important questions. And I think you are actually left with very little state that ends up in a component that is ephemeral with a use state or a use reducer. That definitely exists, but it just makes it easier to reason about what that state is.
Yep. And if you're looking for a better way to manage that state in your URL bar, like use TanStack Router. It's really good.
we literally designed it for that.
Yeah. Even if you're not all in on Start yet, you're just doing simple stuff with Vite and you need a router, grab TanStack Router. It's awesome. So
yeah, I mean, I've been shy about it for a little while, but I'm not shy about it anymore. That basically any router is any router that you're using right now is going to feel not great after using TanStack Router. And I say that as an apology because it's a great experience after you use it. So please come and try it out. Yeah, even if you're not using Start.
Cool. Blocking, non-blocking route previews is awesome. Plans to elaborate convex lib. Yeah, for sure. Well, so let me still do one spicy take here, right? Like, I think if you're using convex, you maybe don't need to use create server function, but if you want to, as convex has actions and server functions as well, yeah, we should definitely have a good story about how that environment interacts. And we might already. I will say that the team has been working on TanStack stuff for the last 2 weeks and making a lot of improvements to the library there. And so I don't know the current state offhand of how much support we have for stuff,
Yeah.
but because of the TanStack Start RC, like we've definitely been investing much more deeply into making Convex and TanStack Start work really well together. So it might already work if it doesn't come on our Discord and yell at us, and that way the engineers actually know what they're talking about, can respond.
My gut with that would probably be that they probably both work great. Like we're doing stuff with Convex without create server function,
right?
You know, it just worked. Could you use create server function? Absolutely,
yeah, they
right?
should both work.
Yeah. I think that just is a testament to the flexibility of the system, right? So
yep. Cool. What's the best auth library? Well,
we're both laughing because
all right,
it's been a journey.
Yeah, all right. So it could be answered by either of us, but I'll take the first shot at it. So I would say WorkOS, and for a few reasons. Like, one is like WorkOS is also working with TanStack now and TanStack Start. Convex is working very closely with WorkOS. WorkOS team, I know how serious they are about TanStack, and I know that they're working really actively on it right now. And so if someone was to say TanStack and some other backend, and I think there's a lot of auth providers that have excellent support, but very specifically the combination of TanStack, Start, and Convex, I think that betting on WorkOS is probably going to be the library that the most effort is going to go into making that triad work really well together.
Agreed. I mean, I have to be semi-diplomatic here because we want to support any authentication strategy from just a TanStack Start perspective. So there's lots of options there, and we have a lot of partners, including WorkOS and Clerk, and we work very closely with even the Better Auth team, right? But when it comes to Convex, I couldn't agree more. I think Convex and WorkOS and TanStack Start, trying to make that a great experience together.
Yeah, especially because it takes so much work to do this stuff. So like, and because we know how aligned the WorkOS team is in making this work, like we too want Clerk and Better Auth and other. We support those in Next.js and stuff like that, and our users love them. But right now, the first effort, the early effort, is going into just really making sure WorkOS, TanStack Start, and Convex work excellently, and then we'll spread the effort to more places.
That was a good question.
Does Convex work in TanStack DB? Probably not, is the honest answer right now. And the biggest reason why not, although I do ask in our local sync channel in Discord, I kind of ask in there periodically, like, hey, does anybody want to try this just to get good data on it?
I'm sure you could hack it.
I think the biggest reason it doesn't yet, you could hack it, is because the work that our team is doing that I think will get shipped the next couple of weeks on client-side ID generation, without support for that, it's pretty awkward to, because you're originating documents that you want to be able to make them have an authoritative ID. You can obviously do that by creating an extra field in your server database, writing extra code to ignore Convex as primary key and treat this other thing as the document ID. But it's kind of ugly. It could be done, but I think that once we release the better support for like client generated document IDs in the next few weeks, at that point, I'm very excited to see how well they work together, because I think they could work together quite well.
Yeah, it's probably a we'll see, right?
Yeah.
Hopeful. I think you'd say we're hopeful.
If nobody else does it, I'll probably find a weekend to like try to spin it up and just.
I do that
like
too. I'm like, go try it out, please. Try and hack it. You know.
Yeah, I think Better TStack is awesome. So we're a sponsor of Better TStack, and it's I know that Aman's adding new components to the stack all the time, And so nothing but positive things to say. I think that as a platform owner, I will say that one of the things our team does a really great job at trying to keep up at, but I know we still don't because it's such a big job, is constant array of templates of this times this times this together. And then as all those different libraries upgrade and stuff like that, it's very difficult to stay on top of. It's like, oh, that one, like, create a SaaS business using Clerk and Stripe and whatever, like, oh, you haven't updated that in 3 years and it's 2 versions of React old or whatever. That kind of stuff is a lot. And I do love this the ambition of creating a kind of tool that will generate templates on the fly, kind of, that combine the right technologies together. I think that's a really cool project, and I'm glad it exists.
I have something to say about this topic.
Okay.
So even before I learned about Better TStack, which is a cool product, by the way, we've been working on something like this
Oh yeah.
at TanStack for a while.
Well, you guys do have your like create tool, right?
We have a CLI
Uh-huh.
that is interactive. It kind of feels a little bit like this, but we've actually been working on something called TanStack Builder
Okay.
for a good while now. And it should be making its way to the website pretty soon, I think.
Mhm.
But it is very much it's very similar to Better TStack, to be honest. It's a UI for this CLI experience that we've created,
Mhm.
where we do very similar things. Where it's like, you select you build your kit,
Mhm.
and you hit generate, and everything is put together not by AI,
Mhm.
but very meticulously put together by a templating system that Jack Harrington actually built.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember Jack was involved in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we actually think there's a lot of value there, because there's going to be a lot of people building new projects with TanStack Start.
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot of people who are used to doing that with AI, but it turns out to generate new projects with AI takes a lot of tokens
Mhm.
just to get to the working state.
Yeah.
So we want to try and leapfrog that as much as possible. And while there are tools like Better TStack, we want something that's very, very controlled by
Mhm.
TanStack to
Right.
make sure that we do, we don't need to solve all of the integration
Sure.
problems. Better TStack's taking on
It's taking on a really
a
big
really big
challenge.
challenge,
Yeah.
which I commend them for.
Yeah.
And they're doing it really well,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
We don't need to go that wide,
Yeah.
but we do want to go very deep on the couple of integrations and kit building things we have for TanStack to make sure they're really good.
Yes. Yeah. That's such an ambitious project, just because the combinatorial complexity of so many things that could be brought together, and then even just testing frameworks about how did you
Oh
know
yeah.
it worked and stuff like that. So cool. What's next? I see a lot of questions on the side there. Server-side preloading doesn't always feel faster. Are further improvements possible? Yeah, for sure. So one thing we have not implemented yet, and it's on the long list of, like, I'm sorry, we're trying to hire more people to build stuff faster, is Convex's deterministic state graph thing that we have, which is how the reactivity works. It's extremely compatible with edge caching, as you can imagine. It's very easy for us to throw edge caches all over the globe to be able to pull, for example, server side values out of a POP, right, a network location, very, very close to the user, which would make SSR stuff, because a lot of these, like Netlify and Vercel and things like that are running your server side generation, they have edge networks that run all over the place to run that stuff. So there's definitely a lot we could do to make it faster. It's just a matter of time. So when that might happen, middle of next year, maybe, something like that. So we have a lot we have to build before we get around to kind of like a global edge cache, but that will definitely speed up server side rendering for both Next and for TanStack Start.
What are the margins there that people are talking about? I'm just curious.
I mean, a lot of it's got a home run to US East or whatever, right? So like it's usually just that kind of a thing,
Okay.
where it's adding 80 milliseconds or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah,
just kind of across the board.
Yep.
All right.
Cool. Let's see. Docs. There are docs for sure. We've got and we have a lot more. That I do know is our team has been working on a lot more docs. So I don't know how many are published right now, but I know that the documentation set on using Convex and TanStack DB docs. No docs yet, because we don't even know it works.
You might have missed 5 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
TanStack Start, a bunch of docs. also maybe this question was asked before, but yeah, TanStack DB docs, we don't have any yet because we don't even know if it works.
Right.
So that's for a future project.
So
We'll work on
coming
that.
soon. We'll see.
Coming soon.
Yeah. How's the deployment on start with Vercel and Cloudflare? Last time I tried to get an error I can't solve even with Discord. So now on stable. Okay, so now on stable. Well, the deployment with start on Vercel and Cloudflare, I mean, as far as we know, it's working great. We've updated the documentation for those adapters. So for Vercel, we use Nitro. So you can go and install Nitro, probably V2. So there's two separate plugins there. There's a Nitro V2 plugin, which we actually built when we ripped Nitro out of the core of Tanstack Start. We just built it into a plugin that you can use. That's going to be the most stable, but you obviously don't get to take advantage of all of the new features that they're talking about with Nitro 3. But that is the most stable, and that should work just fine with Vercel and a lot of other places as well. V3, there is a V3 adapter from Nitro, and I believe it's in beta. And there's still a couple of edge cases and things that they're working on, so tread carefully there. Cloudflare itself, we've been working with very closely. You can just drop in the Cloudflare adapter, and it should just work. Obviously, if it doesn't, we need to know very quickly and with a good reproduction. But so far, like when we released the release candidate, we did have some regressions, and we had to work on that pretty quickly and pretty aggressively. But things have been ironed out there for probably at least a week and a half. So if there's any more issues, we need to know about them.
More cooperation. I mean, I don't know how much more cooperation
I don't know how
we
much
can
more
do.
we could do, right?
So Convex is a TanStack sponsor and partner, and we are happy to be it. So
we're in each other's DMs
yeah,
constantly.
we'll DM each other on Discord, and
shared
like
Slack and Discord
share
channels,
hot takes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure,
yeah,
how much more we could do, but if you have ideas, let us know. So. Are you going to be at St. Conf?
I originally was going. I cannot go anymore for
Okay.
some personal reasons, some personal calendaring problems. Instead, to make up for my promised and now my absence, I'm going to be doing a stream with Kyle.
Okay.
And TanStack DB friends. We're going to do some sync kind of chatter on there. But I will not be able to go. I really am sad that I can't go. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
I will be at React Summit, which is right after that in New York, React Summit US. So
cool. So my co-founder James is talking there and on a panel, and I will also be in attendance, so I'll be there. Okay, this is Mickey on our team. Keep up the good work. Okay, all right. Good to know. Thanks, Mickey. Appreciate that. What are the most exciting features coming soon to Convex? Well, so I did a poll the other day, and you all said you wanted more local sync. So obviously, maybe more TanStack DB kind of stuff would be cool. We'd love to do that. A lot of people want European hosting. I don't know if I would call that a feature, but it is definitely something there is high demand for right now.
An
So
option.
yes, and with like James and I have a AMA tomorrow. We're happy to talk more about the updates on that stuff. And then the feature I really want as soon as possible is I want OLAP support in the product. So I know how many convolutions people have to do in Convex whenever they have like an aggregate or something, and they just want to run a random query and they want to run it across all data, and they don't want to index it ahead of time. And that's a very reasonable use case in a backend. And we have ideas about embedding DuckDB or embedding ClickHouse and just making that automatic so that you can solve those problems. My prediction is that will actually be one of the biggest unlocks of people's lives getting better using Convex if we ship that.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would too.
I know a lot of people who would love that, and
Yeah.
I mean, I spent the last decade with my co-founders, and in BigQuery
Yeah.
and DuckDB and
Hmm.
appreciating the capabilities there.
Yep.
And yeah, with something like Convex that feels so powerful, like
Right.
all powerful. It's like, well, you've got all my data there. You've got all this great data. It's like if I had those
I
capabilities,
know. It would
yeah,
be
it would
great.
be really cool.
Yeah. Right now, our bigger customers just bite the bullet, and we do have 5 tran exports, so they sync into their data warehouse, and they could. But ideally, you wouldn't have to do that. Ideally, you'd just be like, yeah, my OLTP tables, I can do a fast column scan on them too if I want, and it's all in one solution. That would be great. Which TanStack products would you recommend for mobile dev?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? Um, Basically, all of them except for the router and start will work with React Native unless they rely on the DOM, but most of them don't because most of them are headless. Um, so query and table and router, or not router, but virtual, all of these will work great. But you bring up an interesting point about native. We I don't know how secretive I need to be about this anymore. Um, we haven't started work on it yet, so it's very much in the early like prototyping idea phase. But we are very seriously looking into a React Native adapter for TanStack Router,
Hmm.
which would also unlock TanStack Start potentially for React Native apps, which is an interesting concept.
It is an interesting
Um,
concept.
we don't
I'm parsing it. I'm loading.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna.
we don't necessarily want to. We're not worried so much about the SSR part of it. There, I mean, there is some stuff there, but mostly like having the ability of server functions and the server
Sure.
function
That makes sense.
dynamics and APIs that we have established for Start are really great and would be really useful inside of a native app as well. And we don't I really don't want to step on any of the toes of like Expo. In
Mhm.
fact, if anything, we would probably build on top of Expo, uh, except just leaving out like Expo router
Mhm.
essentially, because Expo is so cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And some of the sentiment I get sometimes from people is like, "Wow, I love Expo, but I've tried Tanstack Router on the web and I love it.
Mhm.
I wish I had kind of both of those together." So that's an idea that's been on our radar for a little while.
Yeah.
And obviously, we don't have all the bandwidth in the world,
Right.
but it's on my radar. It's on my list. I would really like to pursue that, and I'm still gathering like feedback and metrics to be like, okay, how many people would actually use this? Is this worth it for us to go and do? So if that's something that people are interested in, let us know.
Cool. There it is. Any plans to support? Yes.
Ooh,
I believe the team is working on that right now as part of this. Broader support for pagination and stuff like that is part of what we're working
yeah.
on, making sure works well. So,
Pagination, tokenized pagination, that kind of stuff.
yep. So
Very
yes.
powerful. Use infinite queries. Like almost sometimes it comes down to that people choose to go with React Query
Yeah.
because they're just like, whoa, this infinite API is just so easy, and it's something that everybody does.
Right. Yeah.
Every again demos really well not to have to do pagination. It's like, oh, what if we actually have hundreds of thousands of records
Right.
and we've been running for years? How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool. Maybe we do a couple more, Wayne, and then wrap it up.
regarding Tanstack DB, it feels like Tanstack Sync is a better name. Yeah, we've heard a lot of uh, feedback on the name. It used to be Tanstack Optimistic, and that was confusing because of the optimistic updates in React Query.
Well, I think
We
that was a better name.
really
Yeah.
we tried it for a while. It was named that for a while, and people were
Yeah.
like, "Wait, why do I need this if Tanstack Query has optimistic updates?" We're like, "Okay,
Oh, that's fair.
that's
Yeah.
fair enough." It's funny that if you take it apart down to its nuts and bolts, it is a database. It's just a database that runs in memory on the client. It has collections, which are tables. It has schema. It even has a concept of indexing. You just kind of don't do that manually. And it has all of the query language characteristics you would expect out of a database. It's just more of the nature of where it runs and how how the data is fed into it that makes it unique. So we're sticking with the name. Sorry. It's also kind of one of those things where it's just too late. I'm a big
That too.
I'm a big believer in SEO and like inertia, and it's one of those things where it's fine. TanStack Start gets the same criticism, like you should have renamed it to TanStack Start or TanStack, server or whatever. Like, yeah, too late.
Yeah.
We don't need to bike shed that. Let's just move on. So
Yeah. The name Convex drives me nuts all the time because it's an adjective, but it's fine because now it's just become a symbol. So eventually you just repeat things enough, and we all
right,
say the word Google to each other without falling on the floor laughing all the time now. So
right.
cool. One thing, maybe one. If there's one more question, Wayne, I don't know if we've got one more queued up. One thing I'll say while we load it is some news that we do have together because people are asking for more business together is we're co-hosting a hackathon, and so we're going to kick off a Tanstack Start hackathon, and we've got a few partners in it. Netlify, Firecrawl, Autumn, and CodeRabbit are all participating, and it's going to kick off today, and you can win $10,000 of total prizes is in the prize pool. So if you want to build something cool using Convex and Tanstack Start and use some of these other technologies as well, go for it and go check out details. Maybe Wayne can share a link with everyone on because I don't know how to do that because again I'm not an admin on this. I don't know what I'm doing. So, but yeah, dive into the hackathon and build something cool and win some prizes. So, what changes were introduced in our? Oh, this is for you.
Changes were introduced in RC that changes how errors are reported on the server. Oh, right. We've been working very closely with Dominic over at Sentry. He was just he was in mine and Manuel's DMs this morning, actually, just like, please give me this callback or this API to do this. And we have a solution for that. Observability is something we've been trying to be very mindful about with Tanstack Start. So we will not launch 1.0 without having this path, this use case be paved in gold. But yes, right now, the way that fetch, like the final fetch handler is exported to where you can actually run Tanstack Start inside of other things as long as it just takes a request.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use it inside of Express or Hano, or you can do the reverse and actually use Hano or Express inside of Start, as long as you can pass the request and response around. But one of the problems about moving away from the built-in Nitro adapter that was part of Tanstack Start to just having our own fetch handler is that some of the stuff that Nitro was doing of automatically throwing errors and automatically reporting out, some of that is inverted that control back to the user.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to make sure that the APIs that we design and the defaults that we have, if people aren't controlling that, will put them in the pit of success for observability. And that's what this person is asking about. So what changes were introduced? Those are the changes. We ripped Nitro out. Nitro was doing some of that, but it's going to be much better, hopefully just in the next couple of days or a week, something like that. But we will not launch 1.0 without it being perfect. Never. Oh, no.
Tanstack auth.
No.
Do you want to build an auth service?
No way. No, thank you.
No.
There's a reason that
You're
we have
a wise man.
There's a reason we have auth partners.
Yeah.
No.
Auth is hard. It's good to have someone solve
That's
that.
one of those where it's like, oh, do I want to pivot my entire business?
I know.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, we sort of learned that lesson too.
Yeah,
we started to build auth and we're like, oh yeah,
it's a trap.
No, the long tail is infinitely long.
Yeah, and it's deceptively simple. You're just like, oh well, we can do this on our own. Like we should do this on our own. The more control, the better, right?
It's the classic. You get something basic working in a week, and then like something that's good enough will take you 5 years in a team of 5 people. And so like unless you're ready to commit to that, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So cool. Well, this is great. I think we're just about at time, so I think we nailed it. I think we did a good job. Thanks so much for coming and doing this with us. Bet. So thanks everyone for watching and dialing in. And on the Convex side, James and I are going to be back on the stream tomorrow to talk about Convex things. So join us for that, and go to tanstack.com and download some Tanstack stuff and try it if you haven't yet. What have you been doing with your life? If you haven't tried it yet, go try it. All right.